So today I'm going to be showing you the lore of Fortnite by me. So what is Fortnite? Fortnite is basically a game that was originally created by Epic Games just to be a save the world game. So basically it was a player versus everyone. So they would fight zombies. But later on in 2017, they came out with a new game mode called Battle Royale, which is revolutionized the game industry and created a bunch of other Battle Royale games with it. And the story of Fortnite all started with a visual glitch. All of it started with just one visual glitch that created an entire storyline based off of that. So, I'll be breaking down the key events and storyline moments throughout the first chapter only. There's 5 chapters, but this will only be going over the first chapter, and also the collaborations that happen in there. So, lore-wise is where it develops through the entire of Fortnite. So basically, the Big Bang in Fortnite is basically created by this thing called the 0 point. So at one point there was nothing, and then out of nowhere, the 0 point, which is basically the Big Bang in this universe, came into reality and created everything. Created the Omniverse, which is basically multiple universes that have multiverses. So that means it's an omniverse like a lot of universes. And so there's a guy called Geno who wanted to get control of that with his 2 daughters they were codenamed the Imagined and the Order. And he created the Imagined Order to try to harness the power for himself and to make a civilization that he can control over. And he did it. He ended up harnessing the power, and basically he uses the 0 point to alter countless realities to his liking, and he uses the 0 point to go into certain realities and then take the realities characters and bring them into his world. And he basically, the game of Fortnite, each game is called a loop, and in that loop people are put into the games. So each character is called a skin, and each character is basically a character that's been brought out of their reality and shoved into Fortnite. And once you're in Fortnite, once you're in the loop, you lose all of your memories, everything that you forget about, and you lose the ability to talk. So that's why nobody talks in the game. And if you're eliminated, you go back to the lobby. You don't die. You go back to the lobby and respawn and just keep doing it again until you win and then get free of the loop. If a character wins, they get out of the loop, but they still can't. They get the ability to talk again, but they can't fully go back to their universe yet. The only way to go back to your universe and get all your memories back is by going into the 0 point, which the IO won't really let you do that unless you somehow manage to break into the IO to take it for themselves. And so, once someone leaves the loop, a snapshot is made of them. So that means the same character. So if someone leaves, that character gets turned into a snapshot. It isn't the same character, but it's like a little bit altered. So that's why there's so many skins that are just a little bit like another one or based off another one, is because that character won the game somehow and got put into a new character. So that's why there's so many variations of the same character. And the seven are the people who are trying to fight against the IO to break the loop and bring everyone home. And they have a very, very complicated history. And so it consists of the Foundation, the Origin, the Scientist, the Visitor, the Paradigm, the Imagine, and the Order, the 2 daughters of Geno. Okay, so let's start with Season 0. Season 0 is the pre-season, so this is before any season happens, so this is the test phase of Fortnite, so nothing really even happened there. And each map, this is only going over one map right now because of time, and so the first map was called Athena, and every single other map is called another like Greek, like Greek character. And at first, it followed the A name, like Apollo, Athena, Artemis, all of that, but it stopped after a while. And the map, the island located is called Reality Zero. That'll be important later on and explain later. Okay. So the first season of Fortnite, not that much story. It's just people want to have fun then. Second season is that's when they introduced the Battle Pass, which is also revolutionized the game industry because there's almost a Battle Pass in every single game now. And no story there. Season 3, that's when the visual glitch appeared near the end of the season. And people thought, oh, they're trying to speculate about what it was. And then the developers saw that, it's like, oh, okay, then we'll go with that. And they made the visual glitch into an actual comet, and so it became bigger and bigger as season went on. Also, it had the first, this is the Battle Pass that the first skin that was sort of a collaboration, but not really. It referenced a character. It referenced John Wick, the character John Wick, but it wasn't actually John Wick. It was just someone who looked like him, and his items were based off of the movie. And so, yeah, so the entire story is based off of one glitch. So season 4 is when, that's the season when everything went down. The first story. And the comet, during a cutscene, the comet hit the place called Dusty Depot and turned into Dusty Divot. And in the comet was an alien called the Visitor, which we later knew as a character that's in the 7. And so at that point, no one knows what the Visitor is. And basically the IO went to the island to investigate it and started investigating the island and saw an alien pod, and it was open. So that means the Visitor already escaped. And so during that time, there was some people, the Battle Pass was based off superheroes. And the thing is, they wanted you to think that superheroes were real at that time. We're trying to, like an actual like superhero story happening at that time. But it turns out it was all just a ploy for a movie. They were just like making, not a real movie, an in-game movie for, like, in the lore. They made up a movie based off of the comet dropping. And they had a prop, like, rocket in a supervillain base for the movie. But the Visitor ended up using the remnants of the comet to turn the rocket into a real rocket. And that's how the first event happened, which is called Blast Off, where the Visitor used the rocket to try to escape. And it started off by the rocket going straight up, and then going straight down, and you saw a laser, like, forming, going straight towards a place on the map called POIs are called, that's what the places on the map are called, POIs, and that POI, which is a point of interest, is called Tilted Towers, which everyone loved, and they didn't want to see destroyed, so it was going straight towards it, and then a giant rift, like a crack in the sky, opened. It went in, and then it vanished for a second, and then you saw a rift from across the map pop through, and then a rocket came through there. It went around the map and went into another rift, vanished again, and then finally it opened a rift on the ground, near the ground, went straight up and created a gigantic crack in the sky, and then it ended. And that crack in the sky became really important for the next season, which is about rifts. That's what the cracks are called. They're called rifts. So that's when, so the crack in the sky, that's what led on to season 5. Season 5 was all about stuff being taken from different places. So there was a little, to promote season 5, they actually made real life versions of some of the items and put them in real life and took pictures of them. And during one of the, like, promotions, they have, like, a character from real life. It wasn't a real person, but just for the promotion, they had, like, a character, like, spray paint an object, and they got transported into the world. So basically, they brought something from the real world into the game. And this season introduced one of the most important elements of the story called the Cube. The Cube, also known as Kevin, Kevin, it got the name Kevin because of a forum where they had Fortnite news banned the word cube, so the person who first posted about the cube just called it Kevin, and it caught on. Even the developers started like referring to it as Kevin sometimes, and so the Kevin was formed by a bunch of lightning strikes striking the ground over and over and over again until a gigantic lightning strike came to the ground, started going on for super, super long, and then it formed a purple cube. And then right when that ended, the rift in the sky closed up, so it was gone. And then from there, the cube started rolling around the island over and over and over again. And then some parts, it would imprint glyphs into the ground that'll be used next season. And so it kept on rolling, rolling, rolling. And then it got to a lake called Loot Lake, or pointed edges called Loot Lake, and rolled into it and then sank and like melted into it. And then turned the lake into like a bouncy purple. It turned into all like purple and bouncy. And the thing is, the reason why that happened because whenever you hopped onto the cube or you would bounce super high, and if you shot the cube at any point, it would like shoot a bolt of lightning at you, and then you like get sent back flying. Also, during that time, they made dark versions of characters with like, so basically the cube would make dark versions of characters, and that's why they would be sold in the shop as dark characters of of already made skins. And so that led into season 6. This is when they actually had the first ever full-on collaboration. Oh wait, no. Back in chapter 4, that's when they had the first collaboration. In season 4 with Thanos for the promotion of Infinity War. They had a game mode with Thanos in it. And so for season 6, that was mostly Halloween related because it was near Halloween. And so in the cutscene, it showed that, like, before the season started, it showed that the Kevin had formed back into a cube again and created a floating island from the island that was in the middle of the lake. And then started started moving around the island, collecting energy from the glyphs that I made in the ground, and became more powerful as it went on. And basically, it went all over the island, then went back to the lake, and sent a burst of lightning to the sky, destroying the island, and then the cube started spinning in the air, like just staying in the air, and it created darkness and a bunch of monsters called cube monsters that would remain for the event called Fortnite, which is just a Halloween event. It wasn't a live event. It was just an event where you would like just for Halloween related. And yeah, so this is the season where they had NFL skins in it. Then the butterfly event. The butterfly event happened after Fortnite, where Kevin started leaking some of its energy into the water below, and then it started spinning really, really fast, and then before it died, it started spinning, and then it blew up, and then everyone around it, like, got sent to this place called the In-Between, which is, like, this white area, and you would just be floating around for it, and then a, like, rift butterfly would go on your finger, and you get transported back, and then back where you were before, and the island was gone, but just where the lake was, there was now like a little oasis with Kevin shards all around it, and it wasn't really explained what the in between was either. Okay, lead up to chapter 1, season 7. So this one deviated a little from the plot, like into its own story for a while, and so somewhere in the Omniverse, there was a character called the Ice King. This guy, he was trying to get weapons that could, like, very, very powerful weapons that could be used in places here. That could be used to destroy, and they were really, really dangerous, but his colleague called the prison. It wasn't really named the prisoner, but like later on called the prisoner. He was like a lava guy, and he wanted to use it for himself for their own benefit. So the Ice King froze him and the allies who were going with him as well, and froze him into the Ice Moon, which is where he lived. And so he imprisoned them for a while, and then he decided to move the Ice Moon to Reality Zero, so that they would, because he felt that he thought it was isolated and like alone, but it ended up backfiring because there was a giant storm that broke off a piece of the Ice Moon into the water, and it sent it towards, and then it started floating towards the island, with the Ice King and all of them still frozen on the piece of the moon that fell into the world. And so during season 6, near the end of season 6, you could see in the distance a piece of the map. No, you could see a snowstorm coming towards them, coming towards the island, but it didn't happen until the season came. Then when the season came, a giant chunk of the island got taken over by the ice. So the piece of the Ice Moon basically took up a quarter of the map, and it had Polar Peak and a bunch of different like ice related POIs, and so this is the season that had the 2 events in it. One of them was lore related, which was the Marshmallow event, which also gave Marshmallow, like the artist, a skin, which is the first ever like collaboration skin that was a icon. Icon series means like it's a rarity of like skins that only given to real life people who are from real life that get put into the game. And so basically, the Ice King melted. Like everything started melting later on in the season, but the Ice King melted first, and he noticed that the entire thing was melting. So the prisoner was gonna melt free soon. So he had to stop it somehow. So he did the event of season 7, had him go into a giant ice ball and then float into the sky. And then when he broke out of the ice ball during the event, he started harnessing a bunch of power and threw it against the island, like covering the entire island in snow. So he tried to make it so that the prisoner would stay in the castle, but he ended up escaping anyway. But he used him and the Ice Queen. The Ice Queen isn't really that big of in story, but when he threw the ice into the island, he created ice monsters who would help him, like try to defeat the prisoner again, which is those things right there, along with the Ice Queen. And so, yeah, it ended up not working. And the prisoner, that's the prisoner right there, he needed to go around the island and unlock pieces, because each part of him was like locked due to the chains that he put on him. And when he fully unlocked himself, he did a ritual to basically, he also, when he escaped, he brought dragon eggs with him that were trapped with him, that were his allies during, like, when he was with the Ice King. And so he did a ritual to create a volcano for himself. He made a volcano for himself that went into this season. Chapter 1, season 8, is basically, it had a lot of subplots. So basically, on the top right of the island, there was the volcano, and the bottom left of the island is still Polar Peak. But also in like the top middle, so the middle, if you go like upward, it had like a lazy lagoon, which was a pirate thing. The pirates didn't really have to do anything to the story. They were just put in there because it's a tropical season. And basically, Ice King was trying to defeat the prisoner, while the prisoner was trying to get revenge on the Ice King with the dragon eggs he used. And the dragon eggs, he raised them and turned them to like dragon ninjas, basically. And this battle pass also had Peely, which is a iconic character to Fortnite now, who is a giant banana man. And it also had a collaboration with Marvel again, where they had new game mode with the collaboration with the Avengers Endgame when it came out, where they had some people playing as the bad guys, which was Thanos and his army, versus the main characters, or like there's just regular characters, but they got the weapons of the Marvel characters. They get like Iron Man gauntlets, they get Captain America shield and all that stuff. And so during that time, the IO was trying to excavate the island and trying to excavate the lake because they saw that there was something still in there. And turns out there was a vault in there that they tried to open. So basically, people had to do challenges to open the vault at the end of the season for the event, which is called the Nexus event. Or also, some people call it the Unvaulting event because in the event, once it was open, people went to the vault and there was like 6 obelisks, like that were like shining obelisks right there, that people would have to, everyone around the world had to choose which thing they wanted to bring back. And when an item is taken out of the game, it's like figuratively put into a vault. That's what vaulting is. Like when something's taken out of the game, it's vaulted. And so that's why it's called Unvaulting event, because everyone had to choose one item to take out. And in that event, that was the first ever time that you saw the 0 point from themselves, which is that giant thing right there behind the text. And in front of it was a desk, and on the desk there was a weird helmet that belonged to someone that was important for the next season. And so we ended up choosing the drum gun, which is one of like the guns that was taken out of the game a while back. Then once it got brought back to like outside, the volcano erupted. It started like spewing up lava and magma and started destroying parts of the island that people actually really, really liked. First, it destroyed Retail Row, which is like one of the POIs that was just like a mall place. Then it hit the Polar Peak. It didn't destroy Polar Peak. It cracked into the bottom part of it, which people didn't even like really know at that time because they weren't paying attention to it. And then finally, it destroyed Tilted Towers. Tilted Towers is like in Retail Row were 2 POIs that were never affected by any event until then, and people really, really liked Tilted. And so when it happened, everyone like was so surprised that it happened. And the thing is, developers knew that, so they completely demolished Tilted Towers. Like 3 fireballs hit it, and so that led up to the next season, season 9. So in like Polar Peak, you could now see a giant eye of a monster that was inside of it. And so the Ice King ended up beating the prisoner in this we learned that he ended up beating the prisoner due to like comics that happened later on. So he ended up beating the prisoner, but he didn't know that the monster inside the Polar Peak was about to be taken out. And so during the opening cutscene for season 9, Jonesy, who is a character that is like the default skin, or just like character that if you don't have a skin you could put as that character, and also Peely, how I said before, and they're friends, and they during the volcano event they ran into a bunker to try to hide, and when they did that, they ended up finding a bunker, and they couldn't escape basically because there's no way out because it closed on them. And basically they had a bunch of like cool stuff there. They like arcade games, their like dance floor. They were like having fun until they opened the fridge and saw that there was no food in there. And so Jonesy looked at Peely and then looked at Peely again and then decided to end up eating him because he's a giant banana. And it says that there was a giant time jump between season 8 and season 9. There was like at least 100 years, which I guess it doesn't make that much sense, but Jonesy ended up using Peely as food for all of that time, and basically using his peel as a cape and turning him into a smoothie. And so he went crazy when he was in there. He turned into Bunker Jonesy, which is like a skin that's in the next battle pass. And he turned into Bunker Jonesy and started creating like a bunch of scribbles on the wall and like a bunch of prophecies that ended up turning true later on, of a giant monster fighting a giant like mech with a sword. And so that led into season 9. Season 9 takes place 100 years after season 8, and it was futuristic themed. So Bunker Jonesy got taken out of the bunker by like a robot who introduced him to the new world, and they had multiple collaborations during that season. That's when they started collaborating more and more with people, and they had an official John Wick collaboration, which at first it wasn't official like back in season 2, but it became official, an actual John Wick skin in season 9. There was a Stranger Things collaboration or a crossover that had the parts of the map had the upside down inside of it, and there was an Air Jordan collaboration with skins going with each one. And oh yeah, in season 9, the monster escaped the Polar Peak and brought Polar Peak on his back with him, like into the water, and basically you would sometimes see him pop up. You wouldn't see the monster; you just see the back of the Polar Peak like pop out of the water ever so often. And so the IO needed someone to basically destroy the monster, because they knew that the monster was going to try to go for the 0 point that was in the vault and try to break it open, eat it for itself, because the monster was known as the Devourer. And basically they recruited Singularity, which turns out Singularity was the person with the mask that was like monitoring the 0 point. And it turns out Singularity later on turned out to be Paradigm, who was part of the 7. So the 7 didn't really like her that much because they thought that they abandoned her that she abandoned them for the IO because Singularity helped the IO make a giant mech to fight the monster, just like Bunker Jonesy's prophecy. And so each part of the mech was was based off a different skin. And so it went on then till they kept them making it throughout the season until they got to the final showdown, which is the event. That was the mech, that's the Devourer. So basically, it was like a giant Power Rangers like fight. So the monster came into the island, started destroying everything. It started breaking into the vault to open it. But before it could finally do a final hit to break it open, the mech came out and started shooting missiles at it. And they started fighting over and over again. He shot a laser beam at it, and then the Devourer used a laser beam on him, on the mech. And the entire time, the Singularity was controlling the mech the entire time. And so when they fought, the mech went up to it and tackled it into the water. And then it was gone for a second, and then the mech flew out of the water and started walking away, saying it was victorious. But then the Devourer jumped out of the water and jumped straight onto the mech and ripped its arm off and gravely injuring it. And so the mech started crawling over to the 0 point, that was still in the vault, and before the Devourer could do a final hit on it, it broke the mecha team leader broke into the vault, grabbed the 0 point, and then slammed them into the face. Punched him straight in the face, knocking him to the middle of the map. And with the power, the mecha team leader let go of the 0 point, but it still had the power of the 0 point in its hand. So it walked over to one of the new POIs called Neil Tilted, which had a statue of the Singularity on it. It turns out Singularity built the statue as something else, so he grabbed onto the hilt. It turned out it was a hilt. He grabbed it onto it and then put it into the air, and it was a giant sword. And the energy that had in his hand went into the sword. and then with last one final they looked straight at each other in the middle of the map, and they jumped. This is the frame of them jumping, and the Mecha Team Leader stabbed into the Devourer, killing it. And then it started dancing, and then flew into the air, and then you just never saw the Mecha Team Leader ever again until years later, many years later, and you wouldn't see him again. The thing is, the mech, or the Singularity, messed up big time, because when she took out the 0 point, it destabilized it, making it go haywire, basically. It brought it into out of the vault because it was smashed right there, and it started bringing things in from the past and the future and across the omniverse, and that comes to Season X, the final season of Chapter 1, which is the Battle Pass consisted of multiple different skins from previous Battle Passes, remixes of them, or remixes of already made skins, because this is all about going to the past, going to the future, and basically the 0 point ended up bringing the meteor back into the sky, and it was it's just frozen in the sky for a while, and basically the IO needed to find a way to stop it from doing that because they wanted control over the island, and if it reached the ground, it would blow everything up. It would probably destroy the entire omniverse. And so they had both the Seven was also trying their hardest to find something to do something to find a way to stop it from happening. So they started placing little devices around the island to try and stop it from happening by putting some of the 0 points energy into the devices to make parts of the map into different places. And this also helped them make collaborations and put them into the map. So they actually put Gotham City into the map, which is the Batman collaboration, and also Borderlands, which is from a video game. And so it all culminated into one big final event called the end. So nothing they did it didn't work in the end. Nothing they did worked. And so the Seven all had different rockets, basically, and were trying to, I guess, break the loop. Their idea of breaking the loop was just destroying the omniverse, I guess. And I feel like they knew that it would, if everything was gone, it had to, there had to be a way to bring everything back. And so when they did that, each one went to a rocket. There were 7 rockets for each part of the 7. And they all went... The scientist was one of the characters, the part of the 7. They built the rocket, and they flew into the air and started using it like the first ever event, the rocket event. They went to a rift. Then they started going around another rift. And then there's more rockets started appearing. Then another rift, more rifts. And then they created a rift in front of the meteor, and then each part of the each rocket of the 7 sort of kept on going around, into the kept on going, swerving into the rift over and over again, over and over and over again, until it created a vortex that sucked the meteor into it, and then it was gone for a while, and then everyone looked up and they saw the 7 rockets coming down with the meteor going straight towards the 0 point. And it kept going slowly down, and then all of the 7 went away, and the meteor slammed into the 0 point, blasting everyone off the island. This is what happened. It blasted everyone off the island, and then started imploding on itself. Basically, everyone gets sucked in. Every single person gets sucked in, including the battle bus, bringing it all in, and then nothing. Just complete nothing. And then all you could see is a black hole. And no one knew what just happened, because nothing was happening. It was gone. Everything was gone. It turns out that it seemed like that for 2 entire days. No one knew what was happening, except of course the developers. Turns out it was all to make the next chapter, chapter 2, and it took 2 days until they actually released. So that's basically the only chapter 1. That was only chapter 1. Later on, the chapters. Chapter 2 had a good amount of story. Chapter 3 had some story. Chapter 4 is when the story ended. Because, for a while, because the creator of the creative director retired and stopped making stuff for a while. And only, it took, that was 5 years ago when it stopped. 2 days ago is when it finally came back. The story of Fortnite finally came back because they got a new creative director. And this one's about Greek gods. So that's Fortnite. I hope that you learned or like got interest for Fortnite like I have over the years. And thank you for watching.